Space, comfort, even something that can kind of feel luxurious. Can a nice compact SUV like the Mazda CX-5 be the perfect car for you? We're the people to ask because we know SUVs. Edmunds drives, tests, and rates hundreds of cars each year. As trusted experts, we've teamed up with CarMax to help you make the best car buying decision. When we say compact SUV, we're talking about that popular category of cars that includes the Toyota RAV4 and the Honda CR-V. We're talking about the second generation CX-5 here, specifically the refresh model that came out in 2022 that has all-wheel drive and Mazda's larger infotainment screen standard. You can find CX-5s with an available turbocharged engine for more power, but unlike many of its competitors, there's no hybrid option. Something to consider if you like saving on fuel. Speaking of saving, the CX-5 does have one big advantage over similar SUVs: price. We looked at average used sale prices over the past 6 months, and you can get a CX-5 for a few $1,000s less on average than what you'd pay for a same year RAV4 or CR-V. Now that can make a used CX-5 a smart buy. But this is the car you're gonna drive every day, right? Well, there is so much more to it than just the price. Another big strength, reliability is great. We use Repair Power for this kind of stuff. They're an independent reliability tracker. And when you look at annual repair costs, repair frequency, and the likelihood of having a severe and expensive repair, the CX-5 does great. They give it a 4.5-star reliability score, ranking first out of 26 SUVs in this segment, even above Honda and Toyota. Now that's another solid reason to go pick up a CX-5. One another reason? Crash test ratings. These second-gen CX-5s earn multiple IIHS top safety picks and a 5-star overall rating from NHTSA. For reliability and crash test ratings, this is about as good as it gets. So the price is right, Repair Power reliability ratings are top tier, and crash test ratings are great. But is it actually a good car to live with? Now we've done hundreds of miles on one of these, so we're gonna go over all the reasons why you might wanna pick or pass on the CX-5. Now, one big reason to pick the CX-5 is for the quality of this interior. Now, everything in here feels premium, from the temperature control knobs, to the buttons on the steering wheel, to the font Mazda decided to use for the gauges and the infotainment screen. I mean, plenty of cars in this segment can feel cheap and plasticky, but the Mazda, it feels like luxury car dreams at a fraction of the price. And it looks the part outside too. The slim headlights and that crease above the front wheel that carries way back onto the door. This is a car that looks expensive, and Mazda uses some beautiful paint too. This red is awesome. Now, it's rare that a non-luxury brand like Mazda can give you some of the same feelings of quality that you get in an actual luxury car at a huge discount, but the CX-5 pulls it off. For the same as a super basic RAV4 with a fabric interior, limited features, and small wheels, you can get a loaded, top trim CX-5 signature. That version has great leather upholstery, real wood trim, and even a powerful turbocharged engine that we really liked in our Edmunds testing. Another reason to go CX-5, out of all of the compact SUVs that we've driven for Edmunds testing, and there's been a lot of them, we like driving the Mazda the most. Why? It's just an easy car to drive. The tall driving position and the big windows make it really easy to see outside of the CX-5, and high-quality cameras make parking a breeze. We also really like the brakes in our testing. It's easy to bring the car to a smooth stop, which is something that passengers prone to car sickness will appreciate. And the brakes feel predictable and confident if you ever need to come to an emergency stop. Even drivers that don't typically care about this sort of thing will absolutely notice how fun the CX-5 can be from behind the wheel. The ride feels super controlled, not too soft, which means that the same sharp corner in town or twisty road up to the mountains will feel easier and more fun to take in the Mazda than it would in another SUV. It also means fewer upset tummies from motion-sensitive passengers. The engine is there too. The available turbocharged engine gives you more power and confidence when you're merging, passing, or going up hills. The power is always there when you need it, which is very uncommon for SUVs like this. The CX-5 is also a pretty comfortable SUV, and for us, comfort isn't just the padding in the seats. Now, these front seats are pretty cushy though, compared to some other SUVs we've sat in. They're shaped well to cradle the driver or passenger, and all but the lower two trim levels have power lumbar support for the driver. We also think about how comfortable it is to use. The ergonomics are really good in here. All of those premium controls we talked about earlier are nicely within reach. Plus, in our testing, we always prefer the tactile feedback and consistent placement of real physical controls over doing everything through a touchscreen, which a lot of manufacturers are doing these days. Now, that stiffer suspension means the CX-5 isn't as plush as some other SUVs we've driven if you hit a bump or a pothole. So, if you prioritize a plush ride, this CX-5 might not be ideal for you. However, what the CX-5 does have in common with those super plush luxury SUVs is, oh, you can't hear it either? Yeah, the Mazda is nice and quiet around town. The only time we heard a little bit of road and wind noise was on the highway during our testing. So the CX-5 may not have super luxury massaging seats, but the little things really add up to make this a nice SUV to live with. We've said a lot of nice things about the CX-5, but like any other SUV, there are some things we change. First of all, and this splits opinions among our staff of test drivers, some people might not like the infotainment. So instead of using a touchscreen like every other contemporary small SUV, the CX-5 uses this knob behind the shifter to control what's on the screen. But it does actually allow the screen to sit up higher on the dash so you don't have to look away from the road too long. The problem is that we found some of the Mazda's menus confusing, and especially if we're using the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which became standard in 2021. Touch controls would be more intuitive here in our opinion. The screen actually does work as a touchscreen, but Mazda disables this feature when you're driving. They're one of the few manufacturers we've experienced that do this. And it's definitely not a deal breaker, and some buyers won't mind at all once they get used to this knob, but it's something to keep in mind. Point number 2, space. Now the trunk space in the CX-5 isn't bad, but when you compare it to a RAV4 or CR-V, yeah, it falls short by about the size of a large suitcase or two. It's a similar case in the back. The doors are kind of short, which means the door opening isn't as wide as on some competitors, especially that CR-V. And since there isn't a ton of legroom back here, that could make it tricky to install and fit a rear-facing child seat behind taller folks up front. Now, if you rarely fill the trunk to full capacity and rarely have tall folks or child seats in the back, no big deal. But in our opinion, that kind of compromise is definitely a consideration. So, the CX-5, great reliability scores and crash test ratings, a great value, nice interior, and it's sweet to drive. Although the tech isn't great and it's a little small. Would the Mazda be a good fit for your lifestyle, or is there a better option? Let us know in the comments and we'll see you next time.